So give me 5 minutes, huh?
Can.
I'll prepare first.
Can.
Oh, my handwriting very jialat.
Alright, so welcome back to our NOTG. Today we're going to kickstart a new series which is called the Whiteboard Series. Hope you like a little bit of my graffiti drawing. I used to draw that a lot during my secondary school days. So we're going to talk about this topic called new launches. We're going to talk about some of the key pointers on why new launches remain very popular with home buyers on a month-to-month basis, because if you look at our transaction volume across the last many years, every singular month, private property, condos and apartment transaction, about 50% are done by new launch projects and another 50% by resale transactions. So usually on a year-to-year basis, sometimes resale will have a little bit more shares. Perhaps that year, there were fewer launches that were being launched by developers, fewer government land sales as well. On an average, let's say on a past 10-year median kind of like a trajectory, most of the time, 50% of every month or every quarter's transaction are done by new launch, 50% by resale. So why is it that new launches continue to be so popular? And what are some of the key factors that new launches presents that attracts buyers most of the time? Today, we're going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 factors all in together. I'm going to do a quick summary for everybody so that you will know what are some of the attraction factors that new launch remains very popular. Let's kickstart with the first one, of course. I'm going to talk about the most important one. This one, I will rate it as triple star. And this is called the TOP effect. You might have watched our previous NOTG. I talked about TOP effect before, during banter as well. I talked about TOP effect. However, it's very important to understand this main concept. Take note, this does not apply to all new launches. Some new launches do not enjoy the TOP effect. You need to reference back to another topic that I talked about before, which is called the volume effect. And these two are correlated. I'll draw two arrows right here. Let's talk about a TOP effect in terms of its usual psychology. Take note, when you buy into a project, it is also a little bit like a human psychology game. You need to understand firstly what are some of the mechanics to let this TOP effect work. Now, if this works for the project that you bought into, what is going to happen is that when you collect your keys 3 to 4 years later, you have a higher chance to see an instant jump in your appreciation of the property that you just purchased. Let me just give you an example of usually how a TOP effect works. So for example, this year, 2024, you decided to go and buy a project that has 474 units. And this is a brand new project, just launched this year. Let's assume that in terms of construction is on pace. It takes 3 years to complete. Maybe on paper, it puts 2028, but 2027, you receive a letter from your law firm and say, hey, congratulations, you can go and collect your keys. And let's say when at 2024, you bought the property in the range of 2000 or 2004. And let's say, for example, your particular unit you bought at 2200 PSF. But averagely, all the rest of our owners bought at 2000, 2004. Why are there differences? Is because sometimes bigger units are lower in PSF. Smaller units like one bedder, higher in PSF. That's usually how developers price their PSF level. Units that have a better facing, higher PSF, higher floor, also higher PSF. And then lower floor, poorer facing, lower PSF. That's all very common. That's how developers and architects will position the unit. There must be a give and take. If not, the buyers will not absorb the unit. So let's say you bought at 2002, the rest of the neighbors all bought at 2000 and 2004, but let's assume you bought a 3-bedder and all the 3-bedder owners bought roughly plus minus 2002. What is going to happen 3 years later, assuming that this project sold out? So it takes maybe the next 1 to 2 years to sell out. And then by 2026, the last unit is sold already. Take note that most of the time as you move along, once they're balanced unit, the developers have cleared most of their listings. Sometimes they might raise the price. Sometimes they might maintain. But let's say they clear out everything by 2026. The important thing is what is the human psychology of all the 474 owners at 2027. This is what we call the TOP effect. So the good thing about a new launch is that everybody bought at around the same price. There's not much variation. You will not get somebody that bought $1,000 PSF, unlike a resale project. Because a resale project might have existed for 20 years. Some people might have bought $600 per square foot. But recently, somebody might have bought at 2,000 PSF. So you will not get that kind of variation. You will only get very rough plus minus range. The mindset of all the 474 owners over here is going to align. And this is what we call the herd mentality. Herd mentality is in the sense that everybody is in it together. Everybody bought in at about 2,000 to 2004 PSF. What is going to happen is that nobody will logically undersell the price that they purchase in. That means if I bought at 2002, I will never sell below 2002. The 474 buyers that bought back then, now they become owners. Their mindset is all aligned. Nobody logically will sell at $1,500 per square feet.
Nobody.
And actually what's going to happen is that this project during the key collection month is going to be flooded by agents. So a lot of agents will be there offering their services. Hey, do you want to sell? Do you want to rent out? I can help you and things like that. That is very common. But what is going to happen is that the mindset is that, number one, I want to move in. Number two, I want to rent out. Number three, if I want to sell, I will not sell below my entry price. It must be above my entry price and likely for me to make sense because I've already waited 3 years already. Why should I sell back at the same price? I might as well just rent it out. I can collect rental. I must just move in, just enjoy the brand new property. So minimally, to attract me to sell, maybe I would think, okay, I'm buying something at about 1,000 square feet. It's a 3-bedder. If I want to sell, it must be at least plus $300 per square feet. So I bought at 2002 PSF. If no 2005, don't come and talk to me. Most of the time, most owners will think like this. It must be a meaningful exercise and a meaningful price for me to make sense to sell. That means if I don't see $300,000 in terms of additional movement on top of my purchase price. So let's say I bought in at 2.2 million. If I don't see 2.5 million, I don't think it's meaningful. Why? Take note, I have paid interest over progressive payment over the last 3 years. I also paid buyer stamp duty. It's not a small amount. Buyer stamp duty of 2.2 million is easily close to about 80 over 1,000 or 70 over 1,000 plus minus. And then now I still have to pay commission. All in is about 100,000 already. If I don't see 300,000 on top of my purchase price, because I less off my cost, maybe my profit is 200,000. And because of this, if there's no plus $300 per square foot, the seller will not be motivated to sell. So what I've just mentioned is that this is just one of the owner. But what is going to happen is that all of the owner will think like this. They are all aligned invisibly. Maybe some people will think, hey, there's no plus $500 I don't want to sell. Some people will think 300. Maybe some people will think 250 PSF. Maybe some people will think, oh, I must see a plus 400 PSF. If not, I don't want to sell. But they are all aligned that they will not sell below their purchase price. They want to see a profit. So that is what we call a TOP effect. And you only get to enjoy this once when you collect your keys. There's no need to hold like a board meeting with 447 people gathering at the pool and say, hey, let's all align to sell at least above $300. No need. Everybody automatically will think like this. Of course, when one person achieve, they collect their keys, they can sell and they exit and they successfully achieve maybe plus $300 per square feet. Just an example. What is going to happen to the entire valuation of this project is that once the transaction starts to be lodged and caveated and it becomes public information on all the platforms, then you will see a transaction that is being done with 2005 PSF. You will see that, oh, somebody bought 2002, 3 years later, they sold at 2005. And this is going to help the entire project's valuation benchmark. So once this benchmark is set, what's going to happen is that you will start to see what we call a domino effect. A domino effect is when, oh, I saw somebody just transacted, my neighbor at that stack 3-bedder, sold at 2005. Oh, I'm a slightly higher floor. I think I'm a better facing. If I don't see 2006, I don't want to sell. Once the entire domino effect starts moving, the transaction starts clocking in, the valuation will see a more sticky benchmark at the new range. And when somebody else wants to sell in this development, when they call their bankers, it's easier for their banks and their valuers to give them the valuation based on the latest benchmark. And that's how you see a one-off surge in terms of the entry price. 3 years later, you see that range. So this is what we call a 3 years TOP effect. And you only enjoy this largely for new launches and largely for new launches with more density, meaning that there are more volume and more units involved. So I'm spending a little bit more time on the first one is because this TOP effect is a very major thing. Let's move on to the second point. What is a third exit audience? When you want to sell your property, you have 3 audiences. But the 3 audiences only exist if it's a brand new project that has just completed. And we call it the TOP buyers. Because if you own any condominiums, you can only sell to buyers that wants to buy resale condos. So we call them resale buyers. You cannot sell to people who wants to really just buy new launch condos, because some buyers really just wants to buy new launch. Why? Because they have a personal preference that they do not want to have a property that some people stayed before. They don't want a property with history. They don't want a property that other people has used before. They want a brand new product. The third group are the people that cannot wait, because this one you have to wait 3 to 4 years. This one you can move it immediately. They also want brand new. They have the same preference as the new launch buyers, but they do not want to wait. And thus, this group exists for projects that just collected keys. So that is also the reason why some people like to buy new launch for investment, is because they want to leverage on this particular group. They want to be able to sell, because you can sell to an additional group compared to just selling to resale condo buyers. All right, so I talked about the first point, TOP effect. Second point is third exit audience. Let me move on. SSD is now 3 years. It used to be 4 years. It has been reduced to 3 years by the government. Once you purchase a property, 2024, you must be ready that there's a blackout period. And what is this blackout period? Is that for the next 3 years, don't think of selling. Because if you sell, you make a loss. What loss do you make? Firstly, you already paid buyer's stamp duty. You paid 4 to 6%. All right? And then now if you sell within 3 years, the first year you have to pay an additional 12% seller stamp duty on your sale price. You sell within the second year, it's 8%. You sell before the third year ends, it's 4%. At the end of the third year, when you sell, that's 0%. You don't have to pay any seller stamp duty. So every buyer now is very clear of this. I buy a property, now I have to make sure I can only think about selling in 2027. If not, I have to suffer paying the seller stamp duty. So this is what we call the blackout period. That means during these 3 years, there's no need to think about selling. Just make sure you can have the ability to hold. If you don't have the ability or confidence to hold, don't get into the property. So what this means is also that a lot of buyers think that a new launch is just nice because the construction period is 3 to 4 years. So by the time at the close of an eye, I buy now, I pay 5% and then 20% buyer stamp duty, I sign a loan, I start progressive payment for my installment. 3 years later, I just go and collect the keys. And when I collect the keys, I can decide. I can decide if I want to move in, I want to rent out, or if I want to sell, I also can sell. So it's a very easy kind of decision. All right. Now next, progressive payment. Very clear cut. Very simple. So compare new launch and resale. Basically, the setup is the same. You pay 5% cash, 20% CPF. You pay buyer stamp duty. Here is also the same. All right, 520 buyer stamp duty. You sign your loan. So you need to sign your LO, letter of offer. You sign already. Here, immediately, 3 months later, depending on your completion period, it can be 8 to 12 weeks or 16 weeks. After that, your installment kickstarts 1 month later. All right, so your installment at the full amount, P plus I, principal plus interest kickstart at the full amount. Over here, what is going to happen is that it's based on stages. Maybe at the first part, you pay based on 5% release, and then it will just gradually move all the way until TOP, you collect keys. And then basically, your installment is progressive. Maybe you'll start off with $600, and then you move to $1,000. Then you move to $1,200. Then it becomes like $2,000. Then it becomes like $2,300. And at the point of your collecting of keys at TOP is still not the full amount. Maybe you're paying $3,000, but 1 year later, once you hit CSC stage, Certificate of Statutory Completion, which is the full completion, then you pay your full installment amount. Maybe by the time it's $4,000, example. So what happens is that when you pay progressively, your interest is also lower because you're paying what the bank has disbursed to the developer for you. It's paying based on the construction stage. Your installment is lower, and most of the time, a lot of buyers love it is because the starting point, because the installment is low, is all fully paid by CPF. And then they can still have time to build out their CPF and build out their cash savings. They don't really have to top up cash at this point in time. And when they collect their keys, when they start renting out, they still get to enjoy 6 to 12 months at a lower installment and before they pay the full actual installment. So that's why a lot of buyers love progressive payments. It takes the stress out rather than comparing to a resale. Immediately, 3 months later, I have to take the keys, start to spend time on renovation. Maybe I need to spend 3 to 4 months renovate. And then this 3 to 4 months I pay installment. I cannot move in yet. I have to rent somewhere or stay with my parents. And then after that, I move in. Or if they want to rent out, maybe they have to spend 1 month to touch up, get in the furnitures and stuff. Then spend another 1 month to advertise and find a tenant. And then at the 3rd month, they have already paid about 2 months of installment. And then they'll start to rent out. So this is basically the mindset of new launch buyers. All right. Now, moving on. Renovation. Renovation comparing a new condo versus a resale condo. Nowadays, you go and renovate a BTO. It's already don't know how much already. A lot of my friends who marry later, recently as they share me their renovation costs, it's like, oh my goodness. Of course, during COVID, everything escalated in terms of manpower costs, but now it's the material cost. A BTO, you get a 4-room, renovate easily $50,000. And this is not including basically the appliances. It's just renovation, carpentry, wardrobes, install aircon, and then do a TV console, a bit of maybe stuff here and there, cabinetry, shoe cabinetry. Then if they didn't opt for kitchen cabinets, they have to do it themselves. If they opt for it, they have to top up a little bit sometimes. Plus minus, add in your aircon, some appliances is easily more than that. It's about 50 to 70,000 sometimes, depending on the design. Resale, even more. If you buy a 5-room, you need to prepare at least 100,000 because sometimes you have to do gut renovation. Even if you save costs by overlaying tiles and stuff like that, things are not cheap nowadays. Alright. So when it comes to the psychology of condos, resale condo and new launch is the same. However, new launch has a key benefit is that a lot of things are inside already. So the developer helps you to install the aircon is given. It's part of the price that you pay. All the wardrobes are in. All the kitchen, carpentry, your fittings, your appliances, aircon, everything is done already. Only thing you need to do, your curtains or blinds, and then your lights. Some projects now, they do lights for you. Some projects, they give you a free ceiling fan and stuff like that. But by and large, you only need to do these 2 things. If you want to renovate it until very nicely, actually, 50,000 can make it into like a designer reno already. But technically, you don't need to spend that kind of money. You just put in nice furnitures, movable, you can shift around, you can bring to your next home, and you don't really have to worry about the renovation cost. So a lot of buyers love new condos because once they move in, immediately they can save costs, just spend on furnitures and lights and curtains. Actually, I just want to share with you one thing as well. You know, sometimes when we do renovation, because when we bought a new house, we are very excited, all right? And there's a lot of emotion. Oh, my new home, I want to make it look nice. I'm already thinking about housewarming, who should I invite and stuff. And of course, I want to congratulate you that a new home is a good thing and you're starting to build your family. But take a little bit of note on actually the percentage of renovation vis-a-vis your purchase price. Because sometimes you see, if I look at a condominium, you buy maybe a 3-bedder in the OCR district, maybe for 1.4 million, all right? And you invest, let's say, 400,000 on a designer renovation. This is how many percent on top of your purchase price. It's actually about 30% of your purchase price. And technically your total break even now is 1.8 million, excluding your buyer's stamp duty and stuff like that. So take note of the amount you're investing. Sometimes when you buy a HDB resale, let's say you buy a 5-room, 800,000, and you spend 200,000 on reno, your break even is already 1 million. This is 25% of your total purchase price, which is actually quite a hefty amount. So try to take note of this quantity, because sometimes we just don't see it. You don't know that actually you're just adding up to your break even cost. So next time when you want to sell, basically you will feel that, hey, why is it that when I sell, I don't see money back? Now let me come to a defect warranty. Defect warranty is another beauty because the developer gives you 1 year defect warranty. Usually take note when you collect the keys, ding dong a little bit here and there. Once you collect keys, usually you need to set aside about 1 month. If there are defects, and let's say you get professional help, they come in and paste all the stickers and all that. Let's say paste until 100 stickers. What's going to happen is that you will ding dong 1 to 2 months, book appointment with a developer, they will kind of rectify the defects. All right, provided the defects are not heavy duty defects, like there's like issues with the floor trap and stuff like that. But if it's just like cracks here and there, maybe within a month you can settle. Then after that, you can start your reno. Do not start your reno before the defects are rectified, because after you start reno, the defects will not be rectified anymore, because there'll be a lot of like a back and forth. Developers will think, oh, it's because of a reno, that's why all these defects came out. So you must settle your defects before that. But by and large, you enjoy 1 year defect warranty. During that 1 year, anything that malfunctions or spoil and all that, you can actually go back to the developer. So let's go to one more thing. 1 year delayed installment. I'm talking about part of progressive payment. So remember just now I was talking about the part that once you hit TOP, you're paying your installment, but this is not the full amount. Why? Because there's still a portion percentage that is not dispersed. And usually 6 to 12 months later, you will hit your statutory completion date. So this is called a certificate of statutory completion. Then you will pay your full installment. So technically a lot of buyers also like this, because if they buy this to rent out, they can actually get so-called like extra arbitrage and leverage over here. They're not paying the full installment yet while they are already renting out the unit for this 6 to 12 months period. Or let's say they move in, they're still paying a lower installment. Also, in Singapore, when new launches are being launched, there's no COV compared to the resale condo market. So what is this thing? Maybe if you have not sold a property, you wouldn't know about this, or you have not bought a resale, you wouldn't know about this. Only people who have sold a property or they have bought a resale property, then they will know about this. Or people that have bought a resale HDB, then they will know what is COV. Basically, it's called cash over valuation. Now, cash over valuation is something that you really have to take note when you buy a resale condo, because if you don't take note about it, you might end up paying more cash. So when, let's say you want to go to the resale condo market, you see a listing that you love, and then you tell your agent and say, I want to offer, the seller is asking for 2 million. Okay lah, I like this seller a lot, let me just offer lah. And if your agent is not trained or experienced and they didn't advise you on how valuation work, you put in the check already, you pay a 1% option fee, and what's going to happen is that then after that, when you realize that when you want to do your letter of offer, your loan, your banker come back and tell, hey, Melvin, I already checked with all my valuers, the max valuation they can give me is 1.8 million. So what does it mean? It means that you have to top up 200,000 in cash. Why? When the banker tell you my max value is 1.8, it means that they can only loan you 75% LTV of 1.8. So the standard is you have to pay 5% cash, 20% CPF, 75%, and they will base it on the max valuation. If they tell you max valuation is 1.8, it means that they cannot match. So this is the lingo. If they cannot match, it means you have to top up 200,000 in cash. So before you put in the 1% check to the resale seller, you have to make sure that your banker tell you in black and white and say that this unit I can match. So you need to send in the full address, condo, size, unit number and stuff, and say, hey, I want to make an offer. Can the valuation match? If the valuation matches at 2 million, or maybe the banker say, oh, this is a good deal. Actually, valuation is 2.5 million. Oh, you can get at 2 million. Quickly buy, right? So if you can match, it means that they can loan you 2 million, 75% of 2 million. And then the rest, you pay 5% cash, 20% CPF, and you don't have to top up any COV. So if you need to top up COV, it means that 200,000 is in cash and your 5% is also in cash. Actually, this 200,000 COV is wasted one, because why? You could have gotten another property or go and see other properties that can match. Because sometimes if you cannot match, it means that this is overpriced, or maybe this unit is really having a superb $1 million renovation that is the seller really wants to ask for this price. And if you really love it and you want to pay for COV, then by and large, go ahead. But generally speaking, when we buy resale condo, we want the valuation to match. All right. So this $200 can actually go into your renovation cost. So take note of that. Now, when you go for new launches, whatever that the developer lists, when we talk about the list price, most of the time there's no negotiation one. If you want to negotiate, sometimes plus minus a little bit towards the tail end of the project. But by and large, whatever is the list price is the price. Especially during the balloting phase, at the start phase, there's no negotiation on pricing. Based on the developer's price list, the banks will match. So the banks usually support the transaction price with new launches. So there's no COV involved by and large for new launches. All right. So that's of course one thing that a lot of buyers also love. Now, the last slide that I have is that you get a brand new lease. So comparing a new launch and a resale, take note, every property has 2 dates. Do not just look at the completion date. So a lot of times you look at portals, you look at whatever platforms, they will only put in the completed date. Now, the completed date, do not be fooled. Because if you see a condo being completed 210, sometimes to a horrific discovery, you need to look at the lease start date. Maybe the lease start date is 2000 because some projects take 10 years to complete. Why? Maybe it's an en-bloc development and 99 years land example, or maybe there's some construction issues, just take them 10 years and you wasted 10 years of your 99 years. So take note of this. And of course, by and large, a lot of projects, let's say they launched this year, maybe their lease start date is 2023. Okay? And then let's say you took your keys in 2027, but maybe on paper, the CSC is 2028, so they will put 2028, all right? So take note, for resale or new launches, this is standard, lease start date and completed. So of course, when you buy a resale property, maybe the completion date was 2010. Maybe the lease start date was 2005, and then this is now 2024. So what is the age? It is not 10 to 24, it's not 14 years. 14 years is the building age from the day it got your keys. This is the actual land age, because take note, when you buy a 99 years property, after that, you need to return to SLA. And of course, there are several options. If somebody en bloc, congratulations. If nobody en bloc, maybe your MCST will rally and say, hey, let's top up lease to SLA. We have to pay based on the prevailing market rate land price in future, all right? But by and large, all condos, all land, all HDB, it belongs to the government. After 99 years, the government will take back, all right? Basically, you need to look at 05 to 24. So it's actually 19 years old. When you buy a new launch, let's say it starts at 2023, it launched at 2024. This is the lease start date, and then it completes in 2028. And by the time you get your keys, it is 5 years old. So you still have a balance of 94 years left. So when you buy this property, you have a balance of 94 years left. When you buy this property, you have a balance of 80 years left, because 99 minus 19 is 80. So this is one of the key benefits that buyers like also, is like, I have a longevity. And then if I want to sell, at least I'm not worried about the lease. If I want to sell 4 years later, there's still 90 years. I want to sell 10 years later, there's still 84. Compared to if I were to buy a resale, let's say at the point of purchase, I'm left with 80. 5 years later, if I want to sell, I left 75. I stay 10 years, it left 70. And of course, this relates to the Ballas curve. Ballas curve basically talks about 2 key things. One, balance age of 60. The other one is 30. 30, no CPF, no bank loan. 60, you can take bank loan, balance lease of 60. But in terms of CPF usage by your next buyer, not the full CPF, provided they meet basically their minimum sum. And if they don't meet their minimum sum, basically at the tail end of their monthly installment, they have to pay cash rather than using CPF. All right, so there's some limitation in terms of CPF usage. Last 2 pointers: new design. You got to enjoy a new architecture design, new facilities and things like that. Tenants popularity. A lot of tenants love to rent brand new because some tenants also love rental units that nobody lived in before. So condition is good, it's clean and all that. All right. So I've come to the end. I hope that this 11 pointers on what are some of the key reasons why people love to buy new launches. And these are also some of the plus point USP factors of new launches. So I hope that this session has benefited you, value added to you. And then moving on, we're going to talk about more topics on our whiteboard session. We'll see you on the next NOTG Whiteboards. Take care.
This is the main camera. Yeah.